Alright folks, welcome back. So one of our subscribers here was asking me, what's the update on this gun right now, and they want to know if they should even get it. And it took me a while to do this because I had to get all my thoughts together about this and kind of try to use it more. And also, I want to do my best to remove my Glock goggles, so to speak, because I always obviously like those a lot more. But I also think the USPs are a good system and a good model. But I'll try to keep it as neutral as I can. So if y'all watched the original review I did about a year ago on this gun, it was more of an unboxing. I've only put through a couple hundred rounds, maybe I think it was like 300-400 or something like that. And at that point, I think my general impressions of it, in terms of the physical of it, right? The looks, the trades, the build quality, and when I say build quality, I'm just talking about like the engravings, the material, the polymer, how are those all put together. And you know what? It's solid, right? All those areas are solid. The outer barrel, on the flip on the other side, you see like the HK markings, the 9mm markings, the engravings on the side. It's really, I think, true to the original HK model, and I think that is very. And let me read the magazine. I'll show you all. Even on the base, sorry, not the base, the edge, the back of the magazine, right? All of this stuff that we're looking for are there. At least in terms of how faithfully it replicates the original HK. Looking down the barrel, right? This is the non-tactical version, right? So it's not there's no extension for suppressors or anything like that. But I actually like this better. That's the way I've always liked USPs, and I've always wanted one like that. I don't really like that tactical one where it's kind of has that barrel extension, so you can screw on a suppressor. Sights, kind of standard, but that's just how the USPs are like. The paint job on that, nothing really special, but it's still there, and it does get the job done. Now, those are the good parts of it, right? Actually, there's actually more. When I initially had this gun, right, the general consensus about the looks has not changed. At least when I just watched the original video I posted about this about a year ago, the original HK review. I thought it was, reasonable. I thought I very much admire the quality of the piece. However, at the time of the review, I remembered that I had a lot of reliability issues with this gun, and that part hasn't changed. So when we're talking about reliability issues, that's a major issue with this gun, I think. And let's remember, this gun was an expensive gun. This was one of the I remember it was it's for the Asian market, I think, but they have some that's European, some that's in Asia, and then there's some that are in the US market. It really doesn't matter for the most part, whether you want the European edition or the Asian or whatever US market. They import them anyway. I was kind of surprised at that fact, but hey, it happened, and I was still able to get it. But again, if I remember correctly, the main reason I wanted to get this one is because I really wanted the 9x19 trademarks on it, right? And I also I was wrong, but I kind of suspected that I thought the 9x19 one would be kind of more of like the size of the Glock 19 rather than the full-size service pistol. It's not. It's the full-size service pistol, but it's okay. That's right. I'm actually happy that it's a little bit different and it came the way it is, that it did. But in terms of reliability, right? Like I mentioned in the initial video, you would fire some shots and you just come back, you'll see like the rounds the slide would lock back, right? Even though the magazine wasn't empty yet. There would be a couple rounds in. I think even in the video, you'll see at one point I fired and a round actually ejected out of the chamber, the ejection port, while we were firing it. That's not supposed to happen. Yes, it looked kind of cool for the video, but that was not supposed to happen. Later on, a few months later, right, when we started shooting, the loading nozzle broke, and it wasn't to the point where it fractured and it won't cycle. The point where it broke the loading what was it called, the loading part of the nozzle, so it won't push up a new round and strip a round out of the magazine when the slide cycles, unfortunately. So that caused a lot of problems, and finding parts for this gun is a challenge, right? it's not, super common, and you have to dig around. I remember I had to go all over the place, like literally the world, to search. I mean, online, obviously. Search all over online for it, and I can't remember, it was imported in Europe or something like that I had to get. There was a video I made about how to repair it, but I remember it was a lengthy one, because I remember I searched all over, like Taiwan, Hong Kong, and it was a store in France, I think, that ended up having the one part that was compatible. Not to mention the amount of time that I spent to find parts that when they shipped, there's a lot of confusion about which model is which, and I got a shipment initially that turned out it was for the wrong model, even though it was for the USP. So that part was finally fixed. So I had ordered an extra one for that one. So that was a mark off it in terms of reliability and performance. Then after I fixed that, it worked well for a while. Before I get to the next issue, the magazine, I can't really say it's an exclusively a Umarex, or sorry, a USP, or an issue related inherently to this gun, because all gas blowbacks will suffer leaking issues at one point or another, and you just really have to change the O-rings, or oil it up because it's dried out, and that's something that happened anyway with this gun. It started leaking, and I was never able to actually find an O-ring that really was able to fix it just yet, but we'll find out one day, I guess, when I get around to it. But it doesn't add to the fact that you spend all this money on this gun and then you have a leaky magazine. I remember when I bought the Elite Force one, that gun was expensive, right? Because it's a fully licensed Glock here, available in the United States, and yet you have it and the magazine leaks, and it's really frustrating to replace parts for that. I'm going to do a video sometime later about the O-rings once I figure that out, and how to fix that. Because right now I don't really know what the sizes are going to be, or the dimensions, to be honest with you. But again, it doesn't help, right? Now, typically, if they use the standard ones, the standard O-rings, you would be able to just guess your weight and then find the replacement O-ring. So it shouldn't be an issue, unless it's a proprietary one where it's like the Elite Force, for example. They use those square ones with the little insert on the inside, which makes it impossible to find replacement parts for, at least easily. So anyway, that's enough of the magazine. Again, it did leak for me to some extent, and so it didn't help the case, but again, that's something that's inherent of gas blowbacks. So not a point in the gun's favor, but really doesn't help it either. So after that, I started shooting it more, and after I got the nozzle replaced, start firing more often. And what I've noticed though was that the slide lock stopped locking back. It was no longer reliable. Before, it kind of locked back, and sometimes when the magazine wasn't even empty, and it would lock back, but now it wouldn't even lock back when the slide's empty. And I tried making sure it's fully gassed and everything, and I found out that it's not so. I mean, I thought maybe did I wear down the let me get that in zoom, the slide lock on the slide, right, this part right here, because that part, if you release it, right, if you lock it back and you release it like that using the slide stop right here, it's going to wear it out, right? It's going to cause that little wear there. It's supposed to be kind of like a vertical angle right there. Initially, when I looked at the original video, right, there could have been some angling issue. I could have take the picture a little bit differently. So it's hard to really compare photos like this. But from what I can tell here, it definitely seems that using the slide lock here in that fashion definitely did wear it down quite a bit. And again, that's not anything new. Everybody knows that. But, just to see that, hey, look, when even you do actuate the slide a little bit, it does wear it down. And the thing is, I haven't really used this slide stop, that often, to be honest with you. It was a reasonable amount, and it still kind of wore it down. As opposed to the other mechanism, or the other method of releasing the slide stop that doesn't wear down the slide stop on the slide, is you do the power stroke, right? So once the slide locks back, you eject the empty magazine, insert the new magazine, and then you pull the slide back, allowing the slide stop to drop, and then you let go. That way, it doesn't cause a lot of excess wear on it. However, I don't think that's the issue that's causing this to, at least not fully the issue that's causing this to not be reliable in terms of locking back. The main issue that's causing this right now is really and I'll show you, I'll bring up a clip of the video here. It's just there's something going on with the trigger. As soon as you pull the trigger, it's almost as if the slide stop is stuck in that position and it will not come up. So even when there's an empty magazine, right, normally it would push up like this, right, so that it would lock back like this. But with the new once you pull a trigger, the magazine, even though it's pulled back like this, it's stuck, right? And so even if you try cycling it manually with your hands, it will still stay in that position, unfortunately. So that's kind of the problem. So again, even though there is wear and tear on that part right there to some extent, that's not the issue that's causing it. And that's to fail to lock back reliably. Again, doesn't help in terms of reliability. It's supposed to freely freely rotate like this, right? And when you put in a magazine, when it's empty like this, it's supposed to lock back like it does. But as soon as you pull the trigger, watch this, it no longer does that. See, it's stuck. It's stuck in that down position right there. So the slide can fly back, but it won't stick. So it's not an issue of that part being worn out on the slide. It's an issue of it not wanting to come up. There's a lot of resistance there. See, even though the magazine's empty, it's not locking back, or it's not being pushed up. So I don't know how to explain that. It's more of something going on with the trigger right here. As you can tell, it's also having these dead triggers. But let's keep going. Another issue that popped up during the trial test of the dry fires was that I was getting a lot of dead triggers. And again, I don't know whether it's because of the stress of the dry fire test, and if I didn't dry fire, would have this happened? It's hard to tell. But one thing for certain is that these little bolts right here that I'm pointing at in the middle, these screws, they tend to go undone. And so you have to use some blue thread lock to lock them down. I use the reversible ones in case I need to remove them at one point. But once I thread them down, because they get loose really quickly, the front two and the one in the back right here, once you thread them down, they lock securely, or the blowback housing units lock securely in place. And I no longer have these dead trigger issues. So I'll have a little video here showing you what I mean by that. This is again during the dry fire test trials, where initially I kept having to cycle the slide manually every so often because the trigger would go dead. There's one more thing that actually came up again during the dry fire testing, and again, just take that with a grain of salt, because again, most dry firing does introduce a lot of stress to the guns, and it does cause parts to come out loose a bit more than they normally would under normal circumstances. But it still makes you kind of wonder, right? And we'll never know for sure if you had normally shot the way you normally would have shot with rounds in the chamber, would have resulted in this or not. It's hard to say. But during the dry fires, one of the things that happened was the extractor right here, shown here, popped out. And that extractor is important because if that pops out, the spring right here that keeps the loading nozzle retracted actually flies out. And during this trial, when the extractor popped out, I didn't even know about it actually. And so you can watch in this video that the extractor came loose and I actually cycled it and spring flew out, and I didn't know about it until afterwards. Okay, so now that the slide or the ejector, or sorry, the extractor has been fixed right here. It's a minor thing, and I've thread locked the bolts of the screws on the inside of the gun, and let it set for about 24 to 48 hours now. I think it's close to 48 hours now. It should be good, so there should be more stability now. So let's go back to the last 100 rounds and see how it holds up in this dry fire setting. Again, completely empty magazine, as you can tell here, fully gassed, and we're ready to go. All right, let's get started. Let's see if it still locks back, if the lock function did work. So I would have to hold it up myself, and this would be about the 40th shot, and it still locks back. So, that's actually pretty impressive in terms of the gas efficiency. So let's, keep going. Let's give credit where credit's due. This is about the 16th, so it should be relatively stable at this point. Look at that magazine. There's starting to be some ice forming at the bottom. So we ran through about 100 dry fire rounds in the span, a little frost actually, sorry. My hands are getting pretty cold with this. But that's about 100 rounds of dry fire in the span of about, what, 5 minutes right there. So pretty good, I will say that. I think this is a good test. We were running this test for another reason, but I think this also helps support a use review of the gun, and helps add more data points to the overall utility of this USP. What will, though, and I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due, though. I did use this gun as part of the dry firing tests. Don't worry, the results are coming out soon. I know I made that video like 2 years ago, and I finally had a chance to really put all the pictures and images and compile all the videos together. And I will say, though, that I dry fired 300 rounds out of this gun. And yes, there were some issues. It does introduce some stress. And again, that's a separate video, right? We'll talk about it later. But in terms of performance, it worked. It still survived it, There were some issues that popped out, mainly the ejection port, or the extractor right here. And it's going to be very difficult to tell whether that was because of the excessive stress that the gun endures when you're firing under dry fire, or was that something that was going to happen anyway once you get to that thousandth or 2000 round mark, right? I don't know. It's going to be difficult to answer that question. Nevertheless, my final thoughts on this is that, hey, it survived the function that's supposed to do, minus the locking mechanism. It works. It shoots the rounds, right? I'm gonna pull up a video real quick where we can see it being fired right now, and the rounds are sailing across the empty parking lot right here. It's hitting that back wall right there, right? You probably won't be able to see it on tape, but trust me, it's actually landing there pretty nicely without dropping too much. And those are 0.2s I'm using on green gas. So I think performance-wise, yes, there are reliability issues and parts will break on this gun. Is it because of the excessive, dry fire in that case? I don't know. I mean, I think the first nozzle broke without any dry fires. This thing popped out when there was dry fire. It's fixable, yes. Parts are hard to find, and it is a little complicated. The internals of this gun are especially complicated. I mean, if you've ever seen the internals of the decocking lever and the safety of this, it is a nightmare. Even on the original HK, oh boy, no one is going to enjoy removing that and putting that back together. So as you can see right there, look at that. That's just already a look on the inside. My final thoughts on this. Okay, the question is, should you get this gun or not? And my answer is this. If you are looking for a reasonable scrimmage gun that you will actually use, and I would not recommend this gun. It's too pricey for the value. It has some really reliability, has some big reliability issues. Parts are very difficult to find, and if you do manage to find the parts that are problematic, you're gonna have to find a way to fix it. And fixing this gun is very complicated. I still can't figure out how to fix this slide lock issue right now. I don't think it's so much the wear and tear here doesn't help, but it's the trigger pack that's causing it to stay in the stuck down position. And I'm trying to figure out how to fix that right now, and I don't know how to do that yet. So if you are looking for that, the things that I talked about, if you're not into that, that's not the gun for you, right? Probably stick with something else. Or even just a different model, like the KWA, I believe, the one that's available in the US. Just this particular model. Remember, I'm only talking about this model right here. Was not worth it for the price. Now, do I regret this? No. I mean, part of it, I like reviewing these. I like having them as a collector item. I'm very bummed that it doesn't lock back. That's a huge bummer for me. I just don't like that. I just wish that worked. But in terms of, does it send rounds down range? Yes, still does. Just like it did in the past? Oh yeah, absolutely. Nothing's really changed. Are the screws on the inside getting a little bit loose? Yeah, but once you thread lock them and, fix it a little bit, that's another story. But yes, you're able to fix that. And if you're willing to put some patience in it, I think you will be able to be happy with this piece. Again, it's just pretty pricey. If it was any other, well, if it was like say $100 or $120, I would say sure, go ahead. It's reasonable. I'm not expecting the original HK quality here for this model, but I think it'll be reasonable. Anything more than that though, I don't know. That's up to you, right? But as a wall piece and a collector's item, I think this is very nice to have. As a field piece, and if you want to see it perform well, and as a truly reliable secondary like sidearm, not so much, especially for the price. So take that what you will. I don't think you can go wrong either way. If you end up getting it, there's definitely going to be something for you. Just know that you're going to have to spend more money and learn a lot more about it and spend more time trying to fix it. It does look really nice though, I will say. Can't deny that. But if you don't get it, well, also know that you're saving yourself a lot of money. You're saving yourself a lot of headaches of trying to fix it and trying to search for parts. So it's up to you, right? But like I said, what really drew me in initially was the looks of the HK USP. So those are my 2 cents on it at this point. I've put in about, it's hard to really count, but I want to say close to 2,000 rounds at this point. And that's probably including those 300 of which were completely dry fire, so which are very stressful in the gun. This is like a shameless advertisement moment here, but look out for that video. It's coming out in a little bit too. So if any other questions come up, let me know. Feel free to ask below in the comment section. If it's something I can answer quickly, I will. If it's something that might require another video, I probably will do so as well. Other than that, I hope you all found this content really helpful. See y'all next time.